I'm Carin Taylor, Chief Diversity Officer at Workday, and I'm thrilled to introduce my guest, Lisa Skeete Tatum, founder and CEO of an exciting company called Landit. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Carin. Delighted to be here.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about Landit and why you founded the company.
Absolutely. So we are the market leader in personalized career development, redefining how personalized development is done. So versus it raining down from on high, we put the individual at the center and then surround them with all the key elements they need for success, things that would typically be reserved for the C-suite. And it's about pathing someone forward one step at a time. And I founded Landit after my own pain point of being a venture capitalist for over a decade and realizing I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Everyone expected me to know, and it felt pretty awful because we don't walk around saying, boy, I'm feeling less than confident today. So many times we suffer in silence. And I realized that we certainly have the skills, we have the track record, and we have the motivation, but we don't know where to start. We don't know what we don't know. Even if we did, we don't have the access. So we set out on this journey to democratize career success and to meet people where they are, giving them what they need one step at a time.
That's fantastic. I love the fact that Landit came from a place of personalization that really meant something to you. So I love that. Can you tell me a little bit about who uses Landit? And I'm sure you have a lot of success stories, and maybe tell us one or two of those success stories.
Great thing about this one-size-fits-one at scale is it applies for everyone. So we have newly minted in the workforce to those of us on Act 4, 5, and 6, such as myself. All genders, race, location. We're in over 20 countries. So it's about, we are the scaffolding, if you will, but it is the individual experience that defines what the path is. And I have the privilege of being what I call in the dreams business. So we help people achieve success on their own terms. So we have a great example of one of your colleagues who had an idea for years that she was kind of percolating, but it was through her coaching, through working on her brand, that she made a proposal to her manager. To her surprise, he said yes. Regarding Workday Rising, she went there. It was a great success, and she attributes that to the humans and the tools of Landit. Or we have an individual who uses the keeping track of their accomplishments as a way to not only communicate that to their manager, but also to think about how they raise their hand for a new opportunity in Europe. So from those habits of success to working on the brand to curating their board of advisors, they're now off to the races. So we are very fortunate. We can see how you unlock talent when you give people the tools and the know-how and the access.
That's great. I love both of those examples because people were able to take different pieces of what Landit has to offer and really apply that to how they could benefit personally. So I really love those examples.
Thank you.
So, you quickly mentioned race and gender. What are some of the challenges that companies and underrepresented groups face when it comes to this topic? And maybe even what are some areas in which they're excelling as well?
Well, the great thing is we're now in the era where diversity is no longer a nice to have. It is an economic and competitive imperative. The problem is many companies kind of put it over here and say we have diversity as opposed to companies like Workday where it's ingrained in your value and your culture. And I think some of the challenges for underrepresented groups are we often don't have the access. So we certainly have the skills and the capability, but depending on the culture or the environment, we may not have been tapped. In many companies, investment is uneven at best. And so what happens is as we're trying to navigate, those become more challenging, whether it is unconscious bias, microaggressions, or just in general having the sponsorship, not the mentorship, the sponsorship to open doors and move people forward. And often when people are attracted to those that are like them, when you have increasing diversity, those matches don't always naturally occur. So those are some of the challenges. But on the flip side, we're seeing amazing opportunities because if you want to serve or deliver your product in a way that resonates, you have to have those perspectives in the company. And so now we're seeing diverse perspectives highlighted. We're seeing increased participation on the projects that matter. And as we continue to become global and more inclusive, it's even more important that these things happen.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned inclusion because I think inclusion and belonging are key to the success of companies, these days. And one of the things that we recently had an opportunity to do is do something called Vibe Week here at Workday. And Vibe Week was about valuing inclusion, belonging, and equity for all of our employees, and really letting them actively participate in helping us to build a culture of inclusion. So, as you know, you participated as one of our keynote speakers and did a workshop specifically helping employees look at how they can benefit from Landit. And that experience, I think, for our employees across the board was really phenomenal, to have the participation with their colleagues and that focus on themselves in terms of how they continue to think about their development.
I love that event, and thank you again for the ability to participate, because it touched on all facets of Workday. It was global. There was gender diversity, ethnic diversity, and it created a space not only to learn, but for people to share. I know even I learned some things coming out of it, and as you know, in our session, we really got into what are some of the challenges culturally where people want to be a part, but they're just trying to figure out how to navigate. And I think it really made a statement about Workday's value and their commitment to inclusion and belonging, not just diversity.
Great. What are some of the benefits to companies as they are focusing on career mobility for their employees?
So we know, at least in the U.S., 87% of employees are actively disengaged. And we know that's the number one indicator of productivity, retention, and just in general, when there's happiness, they bring everybody else along. And so we know with one of our other company partners that they take the Landit cohort and they compared that with their 10,000 other employees on the areas and in the things that matter, such as, do I now have the independence and the ability to do my job? Will I go above and beyond even if it's not in my job description? Do I really believe that the company cares? Because amazing things happen when you enable people with tools and know-how and access to bring the best version of themselves to the workplace. So it's a great, great thing.
Yeah. So are there societal issues that we should be thinking about in reference to this conversation? If so, what are they?
So we are more connected, there's more transparency, and we are more diverse of all kinds and types. And so we are more discerning. So we want companies that reflect who we are. So when someone's looking to join, they're looking all up and down the organization, not just when I come in, but who's on the board. They are looking at, are they speaking to me and their messaging? When I go to their website, do I see things? So do they hear me? So it is about not only serving and being proximate to who you're serving, but also when you allow everyone to participate fully in the workforce. Countries move, the world moves. We're all about, as we say, democratizing career success for everyone, that it becomes a bigger issue.
Yeah. And when you think about that, how key is that to retention, right? To making sure that your employees feel like this is a place where they want to stay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, someone used this term, help and hope. So if you don't believe that the company is truly and authentically vested, then you don't have hope. And then therefore they leave to find another place. So even if you have the resources available, if you don't authentically signal that you care, people can see. They're very smart, very intuitive in that regard. Yeah. So you need the statement, but you also need the resources and the investment.
To companies and individuals who want to do better, can you give us just one or two tips that you could lend either companies or employees on how they can take this further?
So from a company perspective, we want them to act, and we want them to think about success. So many companies focus on intake, but that's actually not the issue. Great companies will always attract great people. The problem is what happens when they get there. Are they retained? Do they thrive? Is there a sense of belonging? So they need to focus and meet people where they are and stay with them over time. For the individual, it is about owning your own career. So we are in the era of self-service careers. The company's not responsible for your career, you are. So you have to take the reins and you have to go for it. So we say there are 10,080 minutes in a week. We want you to take 5 or 10 for yourself. And Be willing to put yourself out there, to live in the state of discomfort, and ask for what you want.
Yeah, I think
so. A little more than one.
Yeah, exactly. It's so spot on around how we need to own our own career.
Absolutely.
And I like the way that you put that, in the sense that we have to be accountable for knowing the direction, or at least discovering the direction in which we want to move, and then asking for what we need. So I think that's fabulous. I think also, to your point, from a company perspective, one of the other things that would be super helpful for companies to do is actually listen to their employees.
Absolutely.
Open up the dialogue and ask them the questions around what do they really need, because most of the time we have a sense of that. And I think as we have that open dialogue, companies will hear very directly what's working and what's not working, and then can continue to meet the needs of their employees.
And if you ask, and ask safely, they're going to tell you, because we know what our needs are. Right. And if you look at the data and combine that, but you have to create the space. But then you have to move beyond that, because a lot of times they stop at the knowing. Okay, now you know. How are you going to empower?
Yeah. How are you going to take that forward?
That's
what are you going to do with it? That's great. Well, Lisa, as always, I learn a ton from you every single time I have an engagement with you. And I truly thank you for being here with us today. And thank you for all of your insights as well.
Thank you, Carin. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.